Live on 20 News, where the news is sexy and the newscasters are sexier, with Zeina Peterson
and Joel Foster. It's Friday, April 14th, and we're coming to you live from the Creative Tucson studio in downtown Tucson.
First, let's talk local headlines.
Parents of Mesa school children are concerned about a rule that lets immigration officers on school grounds. The Mesa Unified School District sent a memo to parents in February addressing how they should respond to requests by ICE. The memo says that ICE officers can speak to students, but only after the school has attempted to notify parents. There are some exceptions to this rule, but they have not yet been made clear. The school's general counsel, Tom Pickrell, said that schools should be sensitive places where immigration enforcement is limited. He advised principals to contact his office if an ICE officer visits the school. Pickrell said that he's going to, quote, make sure the rights of students are respected and that it's done according to proper law enforcement procedures. But Jacqueline Delgado, an elementary school teacher in Mesa, said that the policy is creating fear among students and their parents. She and other teachers are encouraging the governing board to adopt a similar policy to the Phoenix Elementary School District. Their policy bars ICE officers from entering school campuses. A spokesperson for the Arizona Department of Education said that school districts are free to come up with their own policies as long as they follow the law. Of course, when the law states that you have to cooperate with immigration officials, this can be difficult.
Pima Community College approved tuition increases for the 2017-2018 year, according to a press release. Tuition will increase by $3 per credit hour next year for the in-state and non-resident students. This brings total tuition to $81.50 per credit hour. The board also approved a new $75 fee for international students, but eliminated a $65 application fee for international students. The new fee will be used for increased student engagement for students, such as better orientations and counseling. The changes began on July 1st of 2017.
A Tucson city planner is resigning after only 2 months on the job, a clear case of poor planning. Manjeet Ranu began the job in February, but will leave to take a post in Los Angeles. But Tucson officials spun this into a positive story, as Tucson City Manager Michael Ortega said that this shows the caliber of employees the department has been able to recruit. Yes, employees that leave after 2 months. Ranu was head of planning in Encinitas, California before coming to Tucson. He suffered a rocky time as city planner after he was chosen as part of a national search to replace Nicole Ewan Gavin. Ortega said that Ranu's exit wouldn't drastically affect the city's efforts to recruit new businesses.
2016 presidential candidate and Senator Bernie Sanders will hold a rally in Mesa next Friday, along with DNC Chairman Tom Perez. An announcement said that the rally would discuss, quote, how we're building a stronger grassroots Democratic Party that can take on Trump, fight for our values, and win elections. The rally is part of a cross-country tour through conservative states where the Democrats got crushed in the last elections. It's part of an effort to rebrand the Democratic Party more in vein of the left-leaning Sanders and away from the corporatist press of the party. Sanders said that this is part of our effort to revitalize the Democratic Party to turn it into a grassroots party. The event is scheduled for April 21st with doors opening at 5:30 p.m. Presumably, Perez will go on first, so you can take your time getting there if you're traveling from Tucson.
A judge on Wednesday agreed to postpone the trial of former Maricopa Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who is accused of criminal contempt of court charges. U.S. District Judge Susan Bolton said that she would reluctantly agree to the delay after Arpaio's lawyer quit the case last week. Other lawyers who joined the team said that they didn't have enough time to properly prepare themselves for the case. The trial was supposed to begin on April 25th, but has not yet received a new date. Arpaio is accused of ignoring a court order to stop his infamous posses who aggressively enforced immigration laws in the state. Sheriff Joe was ordered to stop when he received multiple complaints over violating the rights of immigrants in Arizona. He admits to continuing the patrols, but claims that he did so unintentionally. Last week, Mel McDonald, one of Arpaio's attorneys, quit the case over ethical concerns. Reportedly, his exit was not because of Arpaio. Rather, another one of his attorneys, Mark Goldman, requested to leave the legal team because McDonald received improper legal advice early in the case. While the delay is in effect, Arpaio's legal team is looking to add Attorney General Jeff Sessions as a witness. Because who better to prove you're not a racist than Jeff Sessions?
And this is the first weekend where Phoenix will host a Frida Kahlo exhibit, which will be its only U.S. stop. The exhibit started Tuesday at the Her Museum on Central Avenue, and it features 33 artworks by both Kahlo and her husband, Diego Rivera. One is a self-portrait called Diego My Mind, which was created when the couple were reunited in 1943. Rivera's famous painting called Calla Lily Vendor is also part of the exhibit, which runs through August 20th at the museum's recently opened Virginia G. Piper Charitable Trust Grand Gallery. It is part of the world tour that will bring the exhibit to Australia in October. Tickets to the exhibit cost $7 plus the standard museum fee.
Right, and according to a recent poll, 64% of Republicans think that Donald Trump should release his taxes. The survey was taken by the Global Strategy Group and found that participants also think that tax reform is a top agenda item for the president. It also showed that 94% of those surveyed think that there are too many tax loopholes for the wealthy, and 90% said that there are too many tax loopholes for corporations. The poll comes the same week that a series of protests are planned for tax day this weekend in order to encourage the president to release his tax returns. Groups like MoveOn.org, the American Federation of Teachers, and the National Women's Law Centers are holding rallies nationwide. There's also a tax day event planned for Saturday in Tucson. It's called Show Us Your Taxes and will be held from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. at Tap and Bottle on 6th Street. The event will feature performances by rapper Lando Chill, comedians Stephen Romo and Christine Levine, and speakers such as our own Zaira Livier. We'll see you on Saturday at 7 to cheer Zaira on and collectively pray that the president's audit finally ends.
And I want to take a moment to talk about the program you're watching right now. Here at 5 on 20, we are undertaking a new kind of citizen journalism. We are going to give you the news as we see it, and we want more people to speak up with us. We need writers, hosts, anchors, camera people, sound people, the whole gamut. The times require a new way of informing ourselves, so join us. Do it and do it now. Email us at info@creativetucson.org to get involved. And if you think there's a story we're missing, a person we should interview, an upcoming event we should cover, or any news tips for us, shoot an email to info@creativetucson.org. We are here for you and we want to cover stories from all points of views, so don't be strangers. So now, in national and international news.
The Trump administration sent mixed messages yesterday in regards to the Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare. First, in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, Trump admitted that he might sabotage Obamacare by cutting off government subsidies. The subsidies are paid to insurers who are forced to lower their premiums for people who wouldn't normally be able to afford insurance. Without the subsidies, the system would likely not survive because not enough people would be able to join the insurance markets. After the failure of the Republican ACA replacement plan, Trump said that he would let the ACA collapse under its own weight. In the interview, Trump said that the White House might lack authority to make the payments to insurers. Critics say that this isn't true and think that Trump's strategy may backfire on him. This is more likely since Trump basically told everyone that he's actively trying to destroy Obamacare in the interview. Didn't he learn from James Bond movies that a supervillain shouldn't give away the plan before he carries it out?
So maybe that's why on the same day, Trump released a rule that helps keep insurers in the ACA marketplaces. The Department of Health and Human Services will enforce the changes, which are intended to please the insurance industry. Among the changes, the time period where an individual can sign up for ACA health insurance will shorten. It will now run from November 1st until December 15th, whereas it used to run until January 31st. Another change is that those who will sign up during the special enrollment period must show proof that they recently went through a change of employment status. Which is what the period is supposed to be for. This is to prevent people from signing up to the exchanges once they get sick. There will also be a requirement that people must pay off previous balances before they receive health care from a different insurer. And finally, the rule will allow insurers to offer plans to fewer options. Democrats say that this last point could result in people receiving fewer subsidies, depending on what the plan will include. After the rule change, Trump immediately took to Twitter in order to bash the healthcare changes as a disaster that will collapse under his own weight.
MaraLago, better known as the Winter White House, has been cited for health violations by Florida inspectors. In January, just days before Trump hosted Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, inspectors found 3 high-priority violations. These included serving diners potentially parasitic raw fish and storing meat in broken coolers at too high of a temperature. There were 10 other more minor violations, including the presence of rusty knives in a walk-in cooler and kitchen staff unable to wash their hands because there was no hot water coming from the sink. The club recently doubled their membership fee to $200,000 to sign up and charges a yearly fee of $14,000 each year for members. The violations were uncovered by the Miami Herald, who saw the report on the website of the Florida Department of Business and Regulation. However, the site adds that the violations were immediately corrected. In the case of the cooler, MaraLago staff said that there had accidentally been set to defrost. The president said that a DNC staffer must have broken into the club and reset the coolers. He vowed a swift investigation into the matter, which will cost $20 million. Trump made his statements from the front foyer of the club, which members described as smelling like expired milk and spoiled Trump steaks.
So EPA Chief Scott Pruitt delivered a speech yesterday at a coal mine to announce a new era deregulation. He said the new, quote, back to basics approach would focus on redirecting oversight over clean air and water to individual states and to creating jobs in the coal, oil, and gas industries. Pruitt spoke at the Harvey mine in Sycamore, Pennsylvania, wearing a mining helmet. In the speech, he said that the coal industry has been devastated by federal overreach under the Obama administration and that the new administration would turn this around. He laid out the EPA's new vision, which involves rewriting and scrapping rules that fight climate change, water pollution, and automobile emissions. The Harvey mine is owned by Consol Energy, who was fined $3 million in August for releasing contaminated wastewater into streams flowing into the Ohio River. In the settlement, it was revealed that Consol exceeded similar contamination limits 188 times between 2006 and 2015. Consol said that it's improved its pollution controls. The company also said that they would like to exit coal industry after selling their 7 mines over the next 4 years. One prospective buyer for the mines, EPA Chief Scott Pruitt, who's really starting to like wearing those mining helmets.
It's good on him. A bipartisan group of senators are trying to prevent an arms sale to Saudi Arabia because of their human rights record. Democratic Senators Chris Murphy, Dick Durbin, and Al Franken, along with Republican Rand Paul, are pushing legislation that will force Saudi Arabia to meet certain conditions before the arms deal takes place. They accuse Saudi Arabia of human rights violations in their military actions in Yemen. Saudi Arabia has been battling the Houthi tribe in Yemen, who are fighting Yemen's central government. The Houthis took over the capital of Sana'a and forced President Hadi to flee. The Houthis support former President Saleh, who was driven from power as part of the Arab Spring protest in 2013. As of March 24th, close to 5,000 civilians have been killed in the civil war and another 8,000 injured. The senators say that we shouldn't be supporting Saudi Arabia's ruthless tactics in Yemen. The Obama administration blocked a $300 million sale of arms to Saudi Arabia in Obama's last days. However, this was overturned under the Trump administration. Under the senators' resolution, Trump would have to certify that the Saudi government is meeting 3 conditions before the sale can be finalized. First, Saudi Arabia and its coalition partners would have to take all realistic precautions to reduce the risk of harm to civilians. They would also have to show proof that they are allowing humanitarian assistance. Finally, the Saudis must take measures to target terrorist groups, including Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and ISIS. Murphy and Paul introduced a similar legislation last year, but it never received a vote. Franken said that the legislation would help keep Saudi Arabia accountable and said that we need to stand up for our values. The problem with this statement is that our values include selling weapons to other countries.
The Trump administration currently has only enough funding to build 7 miles of the big, beautiful wall, which sounds not so big or beautiful at this point. U.S. Customs and Border Protection has about $20 million so far to fund the wall, according to ProPublica report. The amount has been revealed during a conference in San Antonio this week. The border runs about 2,000 miles, and a wall covering 1,000 miles is estimated to cost $20 billion to fund. Existing fence costs about $2.6 million per mile, and about 650 miles already has fencing. Also in conference, Mark Babowski, CBP's chief procurement officer, said the wall construction will start 2 years after Congress provides full funding. At that point, there may not even be a President Trump anymore, and this whole silly wall business might be irrelevant. But for now, Trump has 7 miles to look forward to. One more and he gets to battle rap Eminem, which Trump has been preparing for by spilling spaghetti on his shirt.
Lord, that. The White House released a new survey on Thursday that seeks out the public's opinion on how to reform the federal government. With the survey, you can eliminate the Department of Homeland Security and even the Executive Office of the President. Or you can offer tips to reform these agencies, such as requiring the President to present his taxes. We're not telling you to fill out the survey and propose that the President be required to present his tax returns, but we're not telling you to do that either. Sure, it won't accomplish anything, but it'll feel good for a few minutes. What else are you going to do with your time, really? You can complete the survey at whitehouse.gov/reorganizing the executive branch. The survey will be up until June 12th or until the lulls make them shut it down.
This was Zeina Peterson
and Joel Foster for 5 on 20 News.
Next up, Joel runs down the recent media tornado.
All right, welcome to This Week in Mediocrity, where we present you with all the best in the worst of the media. I'm your host, Joel Foster, and this week we stumbled into mutually assured destruction really quickly. Rejuvenated after a fresh bombing, Trump let it ride for another round this week by calling out North Korea, the world's version of a black sheep sibling. There he is. Trump finally figured out that he didn't need to put up a wall or sign a Muslim ban in order to be liked. He just needs to bomb people, then threaten to bomb other people, then bomb some other people. He probably thought bombing another country would be the one thing that he wouldn't get away with, but it turns out it's the only thing he gets away with. It started on Sunday when Trump deployed off the shores of North Korea the USS Carl Vinson, which sounds more like a baseball player from the 70s than an aircraft carrier. There's Carl. The deployment was in response to North Korean threats of testing a nuclear weapon. The U.S. said yesterday that they would launch airstrikes if North Korea goes through with the test. At the same time, the U.S. have targeted North Korea with 2 Tomahawk cruise missiles, which have become Trump's favorite toy, replacing his Samsung Galaxy. North Korea, in turn, said that they would hit the U.S. first with a nuclear weapon if there were any signs of a U.S. strike. In other words, it's 100 days into a Trump presidency. But it got me thinking about this question. Why is North Korea testing weapons now? In the past, when North Korea launches a test, it's been to get something like food or aid. This time, it seems different. So I Googled the question, and it returned 3 articles. And let's say it didn't answer the question. The first article that I came across was from The Sun, a British paper owned by Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox News, and also owns Top Billing in Your Nightmares. The headline reads, "What nuclear weapons does North Korea have, and who will Kim Jong-un's missiles target?" Which sounds like the worst game show ever invented. The subhead then says that Trump will solve it, like it's a level of a game he plays on his phone. So in the first paragraph of this article, it says that Kim Jong-un, seen here peeping through a neighbor's window, made it his mission to, quote, dramatically increase the amount of nukes in his control in less than a year. But to be fair, his other mission this year is to finish a whole deep dish pizza in one sitting. So we'll take that with a grain of salt. Moving on to the second article. This time it was from the New York Post, which is also owned by Rupert Murdoch. Are you seeing a pattern? It begins by saying China issued a blunt warning to North Korea on Wednesday, telling its belligerent ally to not conduct nuclear weapons or missile tests, or it was likely to face military action by the U.S. Luckily, they have the video footage of this exchange. Let's take a look. I'll see you at 3 o'clock on the quad, North Korea. The Post article goes on to quote the Chinese Communist Party when it says, quote, "Not only is Washington brimming with confidence and arrogance following the missile attacks on Syria, but Trump is also willing to be regarded as a man who honors his promises." Is he, though? Now, say what you will about communist China, but does a better term exist to describe Donald Trump right now than brimming with confidence and arrogance? Sure, they don't allow freedom of speech, but that is pure poetry. Would we all be able to write that good if they outlawed free speech? Because if so, sign me up, because I want a bestseller. Now, on to the third article from the notoriously truth-deprived British paper, the Daily Mirror. All right, so these are the headlines here. This is right in the headlines. Do these satellite images prove North Korea is preparing to detonate a new nuclear bomb to mark sinister Day of the Sun as Trump's armada moves in? U.S. officials fear that North Korea is planning to detonate another nuclear device. Reporters were told to prepare for a big event today. Tensions are high with North Korea, warning of a nuclear attack on the U.S. of any sign of American aggression. That's just the headline. Somehow the paper sounds like a Korean mother talking to her high school dropout son. But I finally did get around to getting my question answered. So why did they launch missile tests now? Well, first off, think of it this way. The most harsh UN sanctions were placed on North Korea last January after another missile test around the time when Trump was golfing and having 5-minute-long handshakes with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. With sanctions in effect, North Korea is like a frightened bear forced up against a wall, except a frightened bear with nuclear weapons. With a GDP less than a third of Ethiopia's, the only thing North Korea has at this point is nuclear weapons. Likely it also has to do with the new administration. They're testing Trump out, like a child testing the limits of a new babysitter. Because each leader has been different, and North Korea knows this. They signed a deal with the Bush administration in 2005 and agreed to give up its nuclear program in exchange for economic aid and political concessions. In 2008, they even destroyed a nuclear cooling tower as part of the deal. But it fell apart in 2009 under the new Obama administration, back when Obama was still a rookie. Ironically, the year Obama botched the deal was the same year he won the Nobel Peace Prize. In Obama's defense, North Korea ended up having a uranium enrichment facility that they forgot to mention. Whoops. They tried it again in 2012, but North Korea couldn't even last a year without their debilitating rocket launching habit. Then finally another deal in 2013, lasting until 2015. North Korea is like Andy Dick if you like to enrich uranium instead of snorting coke off of a real doll. But besides all that, much of the reason behind the tests has more to do with China than it does us. See, China doesn't want North Korea to collapse because then there would be a flood of refugees coming into China, which would destroy their economy. So it's in their best interest to keep things contained, whatever that might look like. So maybe this is a way to act out in order to get China to step in and take some kind of action. And I'm not saying that North Korea isn't scary. They've clearly been taught to hate us going back to the Korean War. Just look at this clip of a North Korean orchestra performing the song, this is real, "Death to the U.S. Imperialist Aggressors." Let's take a look. right, that's right. It's a little scary, but you gotta admit, that's some impressive propaganda. We really need to get Josh Groban on this stat. But do we really need to be afraid of North Korea? The answer is not really no. In fact, you should be more afraid of your own heart, which is way more likely to kill you. It's true, intelligence experts think that North Korea may have up to 10 nuclear weapons with enough nuclear material to make up about 100 weapons. They've also been testing nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles since 2006 and are said to be planning to test another nuclear weapon tomorrow. The last missile test in 2016 was their best yet. Experts say that they could now reach the US territory of Guam, which would be devastating because it would remind us all to ask, why do we own Guam? But the problem is that they can't fit an atomic bomb onto a missile because it's too large. They would need to miniaturize the bomb, which makes me hope that they never try to kidnap Rick Moranis. According to the BBC, it would take 5 to 10 years for North Korea to develop an operational nuclear missile, and that's if they were left unconstrained to create the weapon, which we know isn't going to happen. Also, there's this to consider. Remember those ballistic missile tests I was just talking about? Well, out of 8 tests, they've only been successful once, last June. Not very good odds. And what if they launch it and it doesn't work and this happens? It'd be good. But what's the plan? What's the overall plan? It seems that both sides are focused on stopping the missile tests. But what happens if North Korea stops the tests? Do we just go back to doing what we did before? Something tells me not. And that something is over 100 years of American foreign policy, which pretty much adds up to invade first, ask questions later. Except the questions are never answered, they cost human lives, and they're really expensive. Without a doubt, war fever is back like it's 2002, and just like Nellie said back then, it's getting hot in her. I'm sure you've all heard of the Moab, or the mother of all bombs, which has been covered breathlessly in the media to the point where the Moab is considering a run for president in 2020. Stories about the Moab were basically pornographic. Here's Tucker Carlson getting all hot and heavy over that big, beautiful, explosive bomb.
Forget the puny explosion of a single Tomahawk missile. Today, the American military dropped the mother of all bombs. Literally, that's its name. The bomb dropped today on an ISIS tunnel complex in Afghanistan is the most powerful non-nuclear explosion ever in warfare. After the bombing, President Trump suggested the weapon's use says a lot about his administration in contrast to the previous one. Watch.
Everybody knows exactly.
Yeah, give me that thick shaft. Keep your hands where we can see them, Tucker. That's right, everybody loves Moab, from the Hillary folks on the left to the Trump trolls on the right. Isn't unity beautiful? And here's radio host Mark Levine's reaction to the Moab.
Everybody knows exactly what happened, so. And what I do that first, I'm going to
1,100-pound GPS-guided bomb on ISIS in Afghanistan. It was like Christmas, Hanukkah. It was exciting.
Is it poor taste to compare the most destructive bomb of all time with the birth of Jesus? Sure, but this is wartime, and anything goes at wartime. But nothing beats this clip from a History Channel special on the Moab that makes you just want to go out and bomb everybody, just for the hell of it. Let's take a quick look.
You're about to witness the mother of all bombs. At least, that's what the Massive Ordnance Air Blast Bomb, or MOAB, has been unofficially christened by its creators.
Well, it's tremendously powerful.
This particular weapon is the largest conventional weapon ever built in the sense of the amount of explosive being carried.
As the largest ever satellite-guided air-delivered weapon in history, the MOAB is big on firepower. This 30-foot monster weighs more than 21,000 pounds and carries close to 10 tons of H6 explosive.
When they were testing it, people actually thought they were testing small-scale nuclear devices.
Pound for pound, this is less efficient than multiple smaller detonations. but the sheer destructive force of one huge blast, plus the psychological effect of the nuclear-style mushroom cloud, is undeniable.
Good job.
So sexy. If you were listening at the end there, you might have noticed that they said the Moab isn't as efficient as multiple smaller bombs. That's right, it actually makes more sense to launch smaller bombs because of the lighter weight and increased control over the weapon. Then why did we launch the gigantic missile? Because it's badass. Tucker Carlson was right about the launch, saying that there was something about the Trump administration. Trump is completely dependent upon image, and if people like the image of a giant bomb going off, then he's going to launch a bunch of big bombs, whether they deserve it or not. So we need to be careful about not to get carried away with this. War fever is fun while it lasts. But much like a drunk who has to get his car out of the tow yard and apologize to his friends the next morning, we need to rebuild the countries after we bomb them, or else they grow to hate us. Then we have to go to war with them again. Then you get it. All right, that's all the time I got for today. Keep your eyes, ears, and hearts open, and I'll see you next week. Have a great and peaceful weekend.